Welcome to the next episode of Revolutionary Talk. We're on to episode 5 in our Wellness Downfall series. We're going to talk about stress.
What kind of stress?
Eustress?
Emotional stress? Physical stress?
Distress.
Yes.
Spiritual stress?
Yes.
There's a ton.
There is. Man, I think mental stress is the biggest one for me.
I'd agree with that. I was kind of telling you that earlier when I was like, it's so crazy. I think about all this work and all these projects I have, but as soon as I start working on it, the stress is gone. And then I realized that it was seriously just mental stress, and I was just like in that loop of like, I have so much work to do. Let's procrastinate. Let's stop doing this. And then I was like, hey, I got a problem or a solution. Let's start working on it.
Yeah.
That helps.
It's a hard cycle to break though when you're
Yeah.
in it. And I mean, if you tend to be more anxious too, like I do, it's like, how do I get out of this cycle? What is going on? Like,
Yeah, it's vicious.
Oh my gosh.
yeah.
Yeah, and something too, I don't know if either of you noticed, I feel like when you're dealing with some sort of negative stress, it can then lead to like breaking habits and worse issues like laying in bed longer, wanting to throw down some Taco Bell, something to break it. And then the snowball goes and it all kind of starts with some sort of negative stress.
Yeah, I think when I create my awareness on what my stress level is, I'll catch myself going back to like old tendencies that I broke or old habits. And when I'm super stressed out, it's like we just start opening the doors to the old habits, and then I'm like, crap, here we go, we're stressed out. So it's like, what is stressing me out, causing me to go down these like bad habits again? And it's like, all right, well, let's cut that out, or let's shut that door, and then the other ones, shut as well.
Yeah, I mean, so do you just have to catch it early and notice that that's what you're dealing with?
Mm-hmm. But I think there's also that point too where you get stressed out, and then that is like the comfort of the stress is that bad influence or that bad habit that kind of pulls you out of the stress, and then you're responsible for cutting off it at that point to move back towards the stress. So I think it's kind of like a magnet. Like stress comes in, it pushes you back to your old habits. You're in your old habits, you get comfortable again, then you can push the stress back out. That's
Crazy.
I mean, that's what I find myself doing endlessly. Like as soon as I find a bad habit, I'm like, oh crap, here we go, I'm stressed. All right, let's get out of it. Let's not get stuck in this.
Yeah.
The endless battling of trying to balance your life.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that's it. I mean, that's the biggest stressor.
You gonna hear a funny one for me, actually?
Yeah.
I mean, so I know I'm feeling stressed if like, and it starts with like having too much going on in my mind. I just want to zone out. I go straight to the Xbox.
Yeah, I mean, but
I just need to zone out and forget everything in the world.
Yeah.
It's a good place to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, at least you're having fun and getting a little creative, I guess.
Yeah. But I'm not, I would say it's a negative thing. It can be if, it's 3 hours later and I'm like, wait, what am I still doing
Well, I'll
here?
speak to that for a second because as a kid, which, completely different situation, of course, but as a kid, I would spend hours and hours playing Roller Coaster Tycoon.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Sims, Sim City. But, you're looking back at it now, especially with Sim City and Roller Coaster Tycoon, those two games were, I love those games, were great games to help with planning, with,
It is true.
Yeah.
working with, groups of people, like, patterns, for instance, like, especially Roller Coaster Tycoon. Somebody goes on a roller coaster that's got a lot of loops and stuff, they're bound to lose their lunch when they get off of it.
Yeah.
And so it's like you've got to...
Did people lose their lunch on the game?
Funny.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
It's
So you
so
have
funny.
to strategically have a plan on, okay, what's your next step after that? Which, in that case, it's having bathrooms nearby the roller coaster
Yep.
exit,
Yeah, there you go.
and custodians cleaning up the park. So it's like, okay, looking ahead.
Yeah. I'd say sometimes when I get mentally stressed out, I love to take walks. But then sometimes I find
that's
myself
good.
just walking all day, and I'm like, well, this isn't very productive either. Not getting lost in like, that stress caused me here, and now I'm like, all right, let's set aside some time to do this, but then whoop, go back and just push back towards the stress.
Yeah, I mean, it's all about breaking or like a mental reset is the idea, I think. So,
Yeah.
I mean, for my opinion, it's like, what can you do quickest to break it?
Yeah.
And sometimes it doesn't happen quick, though. Is the challenge. But.
Yeah, no, that's been difficult on the ones that it's longer, because then I think you get stressed out that you're endlessly fighting that stressor, and then you're like, I know this normally soothes my stress. Why is it not working this time? And then you get in that vicious cycle of just like beating yourself up, or like endlessly like, why am I still stressed? And now you're thinking about stress, creating more stress.
And that's where I think there's just, that might be a soul alignment thing too. It's like, okay, we're yelling at you. This is not the right way, And then it's like, okay, finally you get to that breaking point. Like, okay, I'm completely listening now. What am I supposed to do? Like, I'm at my lowest point. What am I supposed to do next?
Yeah.
And I think stress can take us to that point sometimes. Because if we get so far off our track, we need to be having a wake-up call sent to us.
No, it's funny that you went there, because it's like, that's my strongest belief of what stress is. If you're in alignment, you're on your path, it's stress-free. Like, it's smooth sailing unless you need to like grow, and different obstacles create growth. But endlessly stress is that force, that invisible force that pushes us back to our path. And it's almost like, there's that balance sometimes that I'm endlessly seeking between like, all right, am I stressed out enough to get stuff done for the day, but I'm not endlessly in my head being stressed out, versus like no stress is like, I get nothing done. But it's like, using it as a motivating force, but then also allowing it to push you back to your path, and like, okay, now I'm back here. I have a little bit of stress to keep me going, but not getting lost in like my mind, like, I'm stressed out in my mind. Because when I feel that ton of stress come in, I'm like, I'm out of alignment. I'm not doing something I should be doing.
Yeah.
And then,
that's where I tend to get in my head.
Yeah. And that's whenever I catch myself in my head, I'm like, and this is not where you should be, or you're learning a lesson right now. Learn it, let's advance. Or like get back to that spot where that stress wasn't there.
Yeah, exactly.
There's a fine line between a healthy like sense of urgency and motivation through the day, and being stressed and like overwhelmed.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm trying to find balance, on some occasions. So what are positive ways you guys break stress? I mean, you mentioned walking. That's a good one.
Love to walk. Music, if I'm in my head or thinking a lot, music like clears it or cuts it out. It's kind of like my way of zoning out. Because sometimes when I'm super stressed out, I'll turn on the TV or try to watch something, and then I'm doing everything but watching the TV. So
yeah, I like to eat. I like how you brought up music, because like playing the singing bowls, or even just turning on some music, like some like jazz, slow jazz, kind of just chill vibe stuff.
Yes,
it's good.
I think, and another key too is creating that awareness of like, what is the stress? Like, what am I feeling? Like, even just taking a second to like stop and just like, because when I get stressed, sometimes I just keep going faster, and then it's like, whoa, stop, slow down. Like, why are you stressed out? What is the source of that stress? Great. And then navigate around it.
Yeah. For me, it's kind of funny. Like, a lot of times I'll have a million things in my head and think it's a ton of things weighing me down. But sometimes I can pinpoint it's really kind of tied back to this one thing I've been putting off, or, whatever. A lot of times it's like a project I just haven't felt like doing.
Yeah.
It's like, if I go knock that out, I'm like, oh, well, everything else is easy. So you just kind of have to find out. Sometimes it's that one.
Yeah. It's kind of like what you were talking about, that like, oh, I need to get this done, but I'm well over here not getting it done. And then you get shut back in there, and stress is gone.
Yeah.
That's right. That's where I've kind of like flipped that perspective of stress, of like being a negative thing, of just like, all right, this is my like intuition or something pushed me back to like.
It's a tool.
Yeah, exactly. It's like embracing it. That's what I used to run away from the stress, but also like turning towards it and being like, what are you? And then rolling with it.
Well, I think when we get overwhelmed, at least for myself, my breath tends to like speed up. My heart rate speeds up. So simply just bringing awareness back to my breath and taking deeper breaths.
Yeah.
I noticed even yesterday that helped me quite a bit. So it's like, just those small things. We have these tools.
Yeah.
We just got to use them.
For sure.
Exactly. I just noted that stress can be a tool. I like that.
Yeah.
So
Woo!
think about that one. All right. So I think that wraps it up here. Next week, we're going to talk about social media. Believe it or not, it's not always a positive influence, and could be a detriment to your wellness. So subscribe, stay tuned for that, and we'll see you next week.